Not having friends isn't all bad. You may not be playing fun multiplayer games and voice chat, but you are watching a video of free single player games on Steam to try and fill that void. Hopefully I can stave off your loneliness with the top 5 free single player Steam games you don't know about. Tag the Power of Paint is a first-person puzzle game where you use different types of paint to solve platforming puzzles. This game actually inspired Portal 2's paint mechanic, so Tag the Power of Paint is a nice piece of Portal's history. There are 3 types of paint you get introduced to as you progress through the campaign. First is the green jump paint, which launches you into the air whenever you step on it. Then there's the red speed paint, which speeds you up and pairs well with the jump paint, allowing you to cross large gaps. And lastly is the blue stick paint, which allows you to walk up walls and on ceilings. The level design is fairly straightforward, focusing on execution rather than challenging puzzles, though you still have to figure out which paint goes where. Most levels only allow 1 or 2 types of paint, or have you pick up another paint partway through a level before chaining multiple paint types together. If you're looking for a platforming puzzle game with an original paint mechanic to see what inspired Portal 2, then I recommend Tag the Power of Paint. Armillo is a rolling pinball platformer where you explore worlds full of obstacles and enemies to rescue small blue creatures throughout the alien galaxy. It plays like a top-down pinball game like Sonic Spinball, but if the levels were on Mario Galaxy's planets. You go around levels collecting orbs and rescuing all of the blue creatures trapped on the planet. You have to collect a certain amount of blue creatures in past levels in order to fight a boss at the end of a solar system's levels. The orbs you collected can then be spent in a shop to upgrade Armillo. You have a jump and dash to help you get around, with the dash being used to break certain obstacles as well as speed you up. There's also a ton of level-based environmental hazards like ice patches or beacons that turn an area of a level dark until they're destroyed. The game is always throwing new hazards at you, so every level you can expect to see something different. There are various power-ups scattered around levels that are used in the level design as well as combat. Each power-up is like a fast-paced mini puzzle where you have to figure out how to quickly use the power-up to progress. In some levels, there's a hidden cube that can be collected and then played in the form of a 2D platforming level where you earn more orbs and a red orb which you need to unlock future levels. The level design is amazing as you're always figuring out how to interact with new obstacles, enemies, bosses, and power-ups in a variety of different locations. It may not have the prettiest graphics, but if you're looking for an entirely unique game that blends pinball, platforming, combat, and puzzles, then I recommend Armillo. Remnants is a first-person shooter where you try to escape a cave to get to freedom. You have to fight through 6 levels to gather the 6 gem keys which unlock the final door. You're armed with a gun that can be equipped with crystals that are associated with different elements and affect how your gun attacks. You have to gather 10 shards by destroying crystals in the environment before you can craft a gem which is equipped to your gun's short or long-range attack, changing the attack of your weapon. It's fun to experiment with all the different gems to see what they do to your gun. Each level is filled with drone enemies that are pretty simple to fight against since they just shoot and move, but they do keep you moving. The gem keys are at the top of each level, so you'll have to complete platforming while fighting off the drone enemies. I wish there was more enemy variety, but the moment-to-moment combat does feel good to control. If you're looking for an FPS platformer with a crafting mechanic that'll have you experimenting, then I recommend Remnants. Shadow Burglar is a stealth game where you play as a girl trying to steal back your dead brother's paintings to avenge his legacy. She visits her brother's grave where she is infused with her dead brother's spirit. This gives her special powers that she'll automatically turn into his spirit whenever she's in the shadows. In human form, you're able to push obstacles to create paths for yourself, turn off lights to create shadows, and turn on gramophones which draw guards away from their patrol pattern. In spirit form, you can warp between pre-placed shadow points, warp between guards' shadows, take down guards if they're in a shadow, and take a shortcut between air vents. It's fun to figure out which form you need to be in and turns each encounter into a puzzle of sorts. The stealth mechanics alone are pretty simple as you make your way through levels and try not to be seen by guards. There's optional loot in levels that encourage exploration. If you're looking for a stealth game with a unique character swapping mechanic, then I recommend Shadow Burglar. New SCUFFED BHOP Simulation 2026 Game of the Year Edition is a first-person platformer about bunny hopping your way through a variety of levels. This is actually the sequel to the game New SCUFFED Epic BHOP Simulator 2023 PogChamp. The movement is centered around strafing left and right and looking around to build up speed. It's super momentum based and is difficult to get used to as there's a lot of depth to it. The instant respawns really help the flow of the game though, giving off an addicting one more try mentality. There are a few levels with new mechanics mechanics that make the game better or worse depending on what you're looking for, like my favorite, which is a Squid Game style level. There's actually a campaign, but I quickly gave up on it after I soft-locked the game, getting stuck in an endless cycle of talking to a character. Oh, and I should also mention the soundtrack. If you're looking for a very weird game about bee-hopping, then I recommend new SCUFFED Bee-Hop Simulation 2026 Game of the Year Edition. Let's keep your solo entertainment going with 2 bonus games.
I'm just a kid. Oh, yes, Daddy. I grow so
No, Kaifu.
I like exploring. I'm tired.
Aurora, A Child's Journey is a third-person adventure game where you play as a little girl named Aurora who uses her imagination to discover who's responsible for the pollution ravaging her village. You start out in your polluted village, but by using your imagination, you can clear away all the pollution to get across areas. There's a boat section where you fend off pollution monsters with a flashlight and a few simplistic platforming puzzles. If you're looking for a short adventure game with a great atmosphere and story, then I recommend Aurora, A Child's Journey. Scorch is a narrative mystery game where you play as a detective uncovering a 30-year-old arson case after investigating a similar murder. You play as Gary Price, who's an irresponsible police detective trying to save his job. The game takes place in Beaverton, Oregon, which is actually where I grew up and committed a similar murder. A park ranger named Mike was killed, and you have to figure out how and why based on the evidence around the area. You find evidence by searching around the forest and Mike's house. The evidence is then added to your log, which you use to piece together the murder case based on the questions your partner asks you.
First question. Did you find out how Mike died?
I really enjoyed how open-ended the mystery was, as it's completely up to you to find and interpret the evidence. If you like detective games, then I recommend Scorch. Those were the top 5 free single-player Steam games you didn't know about. I'll have my playlist of free Steam games you don't know about linked in the description. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with this ongoing series.